People respond to incentives. Since people make decisions by comparing costs and benefits, their behavior may change when the costs and benefits change. People respond to incentives.
Well, if I want my son to wash my car, I'll say, if you wash the car, you can use it tonight. That's an incentive. If I say, if you wash the car, I'll cut your allowance, he won't do it. That's a disincentive.
A good example of people responding to incentives is how people respond to the price of gasoline. Across countries, we see very large differences in the price of gasoline, and we observe very large differences in the kinds of cars that people drive.
The Europeans are heavily taxed on their gasoline. As a result, the Europeans drive very small cars. They can't afford to drive big cars with bad fuel economy. But in America, we have relatively cheap oil still, and that means that we are able to fly, drive, pretty much wherever we want at low prices.
In more recent years, when the price of oil has been very low in real terms, especially compared to the early 1970s, Americans have switched back to driving really large cars. Sport utility vehicles are larger and often less fuel efficient than the cars that Americans were driving before the first oil crisis, which shows how much we respond to incentives.
A few years ago, the mayor of New York declared a sales tax moratorium. He said, for this weekend, we're not going to charge taxes. Well, that was a tremendous incentive for people to do their shopping that weekend. And what do you know? The stores were flooded, the subways were crowded, commuters clogged the bridges and tunnels from New Jersey and Long Island and Connecticut just to come in to do shopping. People do respond to incentives, incentives regarding taxes from the government, incentives regarding for sale signs and discount signs in store windows.
The powerful impact of incentives on human behavior is important for those who design public policy. Smoking among young people is a health problem that concerns a lot of government officials.
One of the surest ways of reducing youth smoking is to increase the price of cigarettes. Today, I call for a combination of industry payments and penalties to increase the price of cigarettes by up to $1.50 a pack.
One of the reasons that Congress and the President and other policymakers have been pushing for higher cigarette prices is that there's evidence that when the price of cigarettes rises, teens smoke less. And that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of attention to cigarette prices today, trying to make sure that they stay high enough so that teenagers are discouraged from smoking for that reason alone.
Changing human behavior through the use of incentives or disincentives can be a tricky business. Sometimes public policies can have effects that officials did not intend. Take safety belts, for example.
Safety belts are now required on cars, and the intention of that is to save lives. And indeed, other things being the same, wearing a safety belt does save a person's life in an accident. But of course, other things aren't the same. And there's evidence that behavior does change in response to the use of safety belts. In particular, people tend to drive faster and generally less carefully when they're wearing safety belts because they feel safer. And that tends to increase accidents and offsets, partially, and some people argue completely, the direct effect of safety belts.
Many government policies are like that. If we mandate that everyone has a government pension, say, or that everyone participates in Social Security so that everyone is going to get retirement benefits through the Social Security system, people are going to have less incentive to save for retirement on their own. And that's an example of how a government policy can have the unintended consequences of altering people's behavior by altering their private incentives.
The first four principles deal with how individuals make decisions. But in life, many of our decisions affect other people. The next three principles concern how people interact with each other.